to a Jungian and a Witch podcast. I'm your co-host, Molly, the queen behind Queen of Cups Apothecary and your resident witch. This is my dad, Steve, a Jungian analyst with over 30 years experience, a master's in divinity, and a myth expert. Join us as I get the Jungian perspective on a wide range of witchy topics. Hello friends, and thanks for tuning in to another episode. Today, Dad and I will be talking about the Anima and Animus archetypes. We'll discuss what they are, where this concept originated, what makes Jung's viewpoint of them different, and how we can strengthen our Anima and Animus and strengthen our relationship with them. Just a little side note here on the audio quality today. There will be a few footsteps and bumps in here. Unfortunately, I record underneath my living room, and we were recording this episode later than we usually do, so my daughter was in the living room, and we tried our best to take everything out, but there's a few steps in there. But that's just life, and we'll make sure to be recording at our regular time as often as possible. So we appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right, Dad, we're here for another week. You ready for another topic?
Yes, I'm ready. Throw it at me.
Okay, well, I think this one makes sense because we've talked about archetypes and we've talked about the self and the shadow. And today I want to talk about Anima and Animus, the archetype.
Oh my goodness.
Because we've talked about a lot of things leading up to this, and I feel like we've talked about this a few times, but I think it's something that we need a baseline for.
It's one of the basic archetypes, and it is popular on the internet, so we probably need to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I tried looking at a few things online, and they just seemed pretty awful. I don't
believe everything you read on the internet.
Know.
A basic principle.
Yeah, I was trying to just get the Merriam-Webster dictionary thing again, and it doesn't come up there.
It does not, because it's not really an English language word.
No, it doesn't. So I think we'll have to just start right in and have you give us an explanation about what it is.
So, as I think I said in the last episode, anima and animus are Latin words. That's one reason they're not in Merriam Webster, because they're Latin words. But anima is the Latin word for soul, the feminine form, because Latin has masculine and feminine forms, and then animus is the masculine form of the word for soul, which is a bit related to a sort of popular concept of your soulmate, something like that.
But that would be external. Yeah.
Well, no, that would be a projection of the inner figure. Okay. But that's what we need to talk about, is that it's hard for people to understand that. So Jung chose those Latin terms for soul, anima, the feminine form, animus, the masculine form, initially to talk about figures that appear in dreams. Okay. So classically, for a man, all men, not many, all, at some point have a dream about an unknown woman. Okay. Like, it's not anybody I know. And then women dream of an unknown man. Right. Like a man came to me and said XYZ, or, something like that in a dream. So this is the part where, after Jung broke with Freud and is trying to figure out his own thing, which is kind of between 1912 and 1918 or 1920, he said somewhere that in that time he interpreted 60,000 dreams.
Wow.
The people coming to him just
That's a
presented.
lot of dreams.
So what is that? That's like 7 years,
Several.
6 years, eight
Yeah, it's
years,
several a
6,000.
day, though.
Well, I
No.
see several a day myself.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like in a day, I'll probably, especially if it's, somebody brings their dreams and they bring, I had 3 dreams this week. So there you go.
Oh.
I see 6
Mm-hmm.
people, 6 times 3, that's 18 dreams a day.
A day. Yeah, that'd add up pretty quick.
So maybe, that works to 60,000. And then
Mm-hmm.
this is a course I'm teaching right now, actually, at the Jung Institute, which has to do with dream genres.
Genres.
So
Okay.
when
So
you
like you can categorize them?
you can, because after you've seen 60,000 dreams,
Yeah.
and in my
Patterns
case, I I,
emerge.
I put it like over 10,000 anyway,
Mm-hmm.
then you do see these very common dreams. And
Well,
so
yeah.
somebody says a dream, and you're like, I've seen this dream before. And also, I've had this dream myself before.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
starts to give you the idea of genres. And so Jung noticed that these dreams about a man dreaming about a woman and a woman dreaming about a
Mm.
man
Mm-hmm.
were ubiquitous, very common.
And is it necessarily that they're like a sexual partner, or is it that it's could be any man, or if I'm as a woman, it's any man?
We will have to get to the different levels of
Okay.
anima and animus, because it's not exactly that, right? So,
Okay.
but where does it come from? It comes from
Yes.
seeing this dream genre over and over and over and
Mm.
over again. And then
Hmm.
I have to pick a name for this
Yeah,
genre.
what is this?
And
Yeah.
I'm going to pick a Latin name because, uh,
Why
it
not?
it's fancier if it's in Latin.
Of course.
Okay.
Hmm.
So when you ask that, where does it come from? That's where it comes from.
Okay.
But then in general, once you say, well, I'm going to start with dreams, but when you look both in myth, but particularly in literature, you also see the same image appearing.
Hmm. Art imitates life, though, right? So
It does. So you
makes
see
sense.
novels in which there's a man that has an unknown woman who comes into his life and
Mm.
screws
Messes
every
everything up.
screws everything up. Or more typical, this is the Jane Austen novels, a
Oh.
man who comes into her life
Mm-hmm.
and messes everything up.
Right.
Of which the most common sort of animus novel, Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights.
Oh,
Oh, what's
okay.
his name? I forget his name. He's a very dark, mysterious
Mm,
man with a secret.
right.
She falls so hard for him, and then eventually
Right.
the secret is exposed in the novel,
Mm-hmm.
and that, which
It
is,
sounds like all of her novels.
yes, it does, and an old trope in that. Well, it turns out that, oh my God, what's his name? Heathcliff.
I want to say
He
Hugh Jackman, but I feel like that's
Oh well, no,
wrong.
that's who played him. Yes, uh,
Oh, okay, okay. So I am thinking of the right
the
movie.
it turns out he's married,
Right.
but
Okay.
his wife is insane and locked in an upstairs room.
Oh, okay. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen that one.
Right, and that is a depiction of the animus. So it's not only in dreams; it's in literature,
Mm-hmm.
especially, and sometimes in mythology. So we start with that. That what
Okay.
is what is anima, and then and what is animus in a woman? So Jung called that the contra-sexual figure,
Contra. So opposite?
the opposite sexual figure.
Okay.
And then, I mean, Jung did not deal with gayness, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
so,
a big oversight. Yeah.
well, uh, I mean,
Maybe not.
it was a thing back then, but it was not out. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like, for instance, in gay men, I have analyzed, they, in fact, their anima appears as a man. Uh,
Really?
in it's a perfect anima figure, but they're gay. It's a man. Yeah. And
that's really interesting.
And so you'd have to ask a lesbian if because I haven't analyzed a lesbian, I guess.
That's really, yeah.
So it is called,
start a poll.
But it's called the contrasexual figure for that reason. And so then, as we've talked about with archetypes and other things, that the Kantian boundary, we don't know to what it refers ultimately. But when you see a pattern in hundreds and hundreds of different examples, then you can generalize from the pattern and say, okay, this dream is, ubiquitous in a man and a woman. And so we're going to say that every woman has within her an image of a man, which I think colloquially we would say every woman has her image of the perfect man.
Interesting.
So it's or you would say her type is that
type.
When people talk about my type, and it is true, people have preferences of, I'm always attracted to this type of woman, or I'm always attracted to this type of man. That's absolutely true in real life, right? You would say that's the anima and that's the animus.
Interesting.
Because of this internal image, I'm going to be from a woman's perspective now of the perfect man.
Interesting. So when I first looked at it, I was thinking more along the lines of that, like masculine and feminine energy, and we both have both inside of us and that kind of thing. But this is more of a projection.
Yes, it is a projection until you know that it is an inner image. That's part of the beginning of the withdrawal of the projection. But initially, it just feels like this is my type. And every time I meet a guy like this, it kind of gets to me. Right?
Repeating patterns.
A repeating pattern. And that is the projection of the animus. Or in a man's case, the projection of an anima. So, yes, it is. Jung also went on to say, not only do we have the image of the perfect contrasexual figure, is that, in fact, it is the masculine side of ourselves. If you're a woman, it's like a woman has a masculine side and a man has a feminine side.
Correct. Yeah.
So he went on to say that that's what anima means in a man, is that, men do have a feminine side. And women have a masculine side. Now, back in 1920...
This was pretty radical, I'm sure, yeah.
It was very radical, but in the culture, it's also pretty stereotypical. So that's a bit of a criticism, right? Is that if a man has a feminine side, that's his emotional side.
Okay, I can see how that's kind of overcoupled.
If a woman has a masculine side, that's her thinking side.
Oh, I was going to say like anger, like she has anger management.
But see, that's a bit sexist, essentially.
Yeah, well, that's all sexist right there.
Yeah, right.
Your feminine side is emotional. That's sexist too.
It is, because emotion is not masculine or feminine.
Or feminine. Yeah, exactly.
Thinking is not masculine or feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it's that aspect is a bit dated, let us say.
For sure.
And not to mention gayness, like I talked about before, is not included. So that is all dated. So then it brings us to the question, well, if it's dated and sexist and
then what is it? Yeah.
And homophobic, let's just throw the whole thing out.
Right, exactly. So why don't we throw the whole thing out?
And so it does go back to, well, what is useful at all about this concept nowadays?
Yeah. Well, and I do think it goes back to more of that wholeness of knowing that it's both inside of us at the same time.
I think that's one of the key insights, is that What does it mean to fall in love?
Oh, geez.
And the answer is
indescribable, right?
no, I'm a psychoanalyst. I know all these things.
You can't it's a feeling, right? You can't like prove that you love someone, right?
Okay, there's a whole lot to that. There's a famous book by a Freudian analyst, Yalom. Jakob Yalom? What's his first name? He has, it's an old book, like from the 1980s.
Okay.
It's called Love's Executioner.
Oof. What a title.
What a title. Oh, it's a very popular book. I think it made the New York Times bestseller list.
Well, with that title,
and it's a very good,
got to pick it up.
It's a very good book, which is essentially, if you're an analyst, you are love's executioner because of what you know, which is essentially falling in love is the projection of the anima or the animus. Projection. Okay. Falling in love is projection. Pure projection of your own inner figure onto an actual living human being. And a living human being is not your animus. Like, no. He's a person, and he will never live up to your animus. He will never live up to that. He can't. Yeah. He's a person, not an archetype. And the same for a man. He projects his anima on a woman, and then he's like head over heels. He's not head over heels about that woman because he doesn't even know who she is.
Right. It's the idea.
He's only relating to his own inner figure.
Right.
And then, I mean, that's part of what happens in the later forms, in a relationship. If it happens, is that the more you get to know somebody, the more the projection wears off.
Right. Because they're not fitting in the peg hole.
They're not fitting in the pattern. And you're, who are you?
Right. Why would you do that?
Why? You're not perfect. You're not. And no, you're not. But that's a real person.
Right. Yeah.
And then you didn't fall in love with that person. You fell in love with your animus. So there's an adjustment period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to speak.
Oh, yeah, because you think that they're all that. And then I'm
going to quote a line that you said to me a long time ago, which I thought was very wise.
Okay. How old was I?
Oh, 20s.
Oh, okay.
You have to date somebody long enough till the crazy comes out.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember that. Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's exactly what we're talking about.
Right. And I find personally, when you move in with someone, they can't hide their crazy as much. And then that's when you really find out.
And that's the projection wearing off. It's like, you are not fitting my inner figure of a man. You are different than that image. And the answer is yes. Yeah, he is very different than your inner image.
Oof. Yeah, that's hard though.
But Jung talks a lot about instinctual functioning.
Okay.
So let's say for all the people in the world who don't know any of this we just talked about Anima and Animus, they're completely instinctual and unconscious. That they do not know what they are doing.
Right.
when they fall in love. And
they just blind. That's what they say.
That's right. They just do it. See, and the instinctual functioning would be, as long as there's no consciousness, of which I would say ego consciousness, to interfere with instinctual functioning, the instinct of why a woman is attracted to a man and why a man is attracted to a woman is evolutionary. I mean, way back, all the way back. And in general, it leads to a satisfactory outcome. Instinctual function.
In general. Yeah.
Well, there's a whole lot
Is that why
involved.
50% of relationships end up in divorce or whatever, marriages?
I think, no, that's because people are becoming conscious.
Oh,
If they remained unconscious,
then they wouldn't be getting
they
divorced.
might not be, but
Mm.
the unconscious, I mean, this perhaps is the time to go into this, right? Our model of relationship, our modern perspective has changed,
Mm.
and I mean since 1920. So
Oh,
in
I would
a
say even since the 50s, even
yes,
the 70s.
it
I
has
mean, it's changed a lot.
changed in the sense that I can say even my grandparents who were married in 1918
Hmm.
would not understand our modern model of relationship.
They had a very different relationship.
They would think even that's crazy. Like, what are you talking about?
Mm.
Why would my wife be my best friend? What? Why would I talk to my wife and
Right.
share my most intimate?
Hmm.
Like, no. My wife is the last person
That you would want to be
I would
intimate
talk
with.
to because the social structure would be, and this is, the old world, the old way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A woman's primary relationships were with other women. A
Mm.
man's primary relationships were with other men.
Yeah, there was that segregation between the two.
Yes. And the idea of this actual relationship between a man and
Right.
a woman, and again, there's the gayness part that, that
Just
that would
setting
have
that aside for now.
that
Yeah.
that would have to be studied, but was not a thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah. So even though
so, I mean,
they
yes,
were really close, but my grandparents,
uh,
your parents were
really
really
close,
close, but
functioning family, but you would say highly
mhm.
defined roles.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, so Jung would say that that's instinct functioning, right?
You have to get married, you have to have the babies, you
Well,
have
and
to
we talked about myth and Joseph Campbell's four
hmm.
functions of myth and things like that. That's the myth functioning,
Yeah.
right? About a myth
Right.
is when you marry somebody, it works like this,
And then you're happily ever
and
after.
and exactly right, and the woman does this, and the
Hmm.
man does that, and if everybody just
Does what they're supposed to.
supposed to do, everything is happy.
uh,
And you're right. Maybe in the 50s. I mean, I think a little bit before it started it started to change.
Makes
And
sense.
I think that's why there's so much divorce, is that when you decide that a relationship could be a personal relationship,
Mm.
most people can't pull that off. It is so difficult. It is, in other
Mm.
words, the withdrawing of the projection of Anima and Animus to actually relate to a person underneath the archetype is so difficult. Most people cannot pull that off in a relationship.
Mm.
Speaking of
Yeah.
love's executioner, uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So is that what you do with couples then? You're trying to help them relate to each other as humans and not so much through
I
their
I am, and it is just about the most difficult thing that I do.
I can't imagine that that would be
I
really
cannot
difficult.
tell you how difficult it is. There are many forms of couples therapy. I can't say that, I mean,
Mm.
other forms might be very successful. I don't know. I personally have not been very successful. I mean,
Mm.
in the sense that in the old days when I used to see couples, no, I always had the boundary that I said right at the first session of therapy.
Mm.
I will never tell you if you should stay together or be apart.
Oh, I think
I'm
that's really smart.
I'm not going to tell you. Like, that is the most
Hmm.
personal decision in the entire world. And
Yeah.
also, as a therapist, I don't have to live with the consequences of that decision.
Right.
You do. So no,
Hmm.
I am never going to tell you.
Right. You're never going to make a recommendation like that.
A recommendation like that. And yeah, I think that is the correct sort of ethical position because, but to get back to Jung, about the withdrawal of the projection, it's like, I can't tell you that you are so blinded by your own projection of the animus that you cannot even see what is going on here.
That's what you want to say, right? You're sitting there in your head saying that.
No, I want people to function in a healthy way. And I am just a human being. I'm not capable of deciding, well, which is better for this person, the instinctual way or this modern way. I can't tell you.
They got to figure that out for themselves.
They do. Sure. They really do. And I can't say. So, I mean, you could put this as a link. Jung wrote a paper called Marriage as a Psychological Relationship. And that's
a psychological relationship.
Oh, well, yes, it is.
Wow.
As a matter of fact.
I mean, I understand
in which,
that, but
in which all of this of the Anima and Animus comes up, right? I mean, it's in the collected works, but I have seen it recently online on the internet. So there's actually a link to a pirated version from Princeton University Press that you can read.
Perfect.
This paper, and I mean, what does it say? It says, as long as there's projection, there is no psychological relationship between two people.
Whoa.
Because you're not relating to a human being. You're relating to yourself in a way, like your own inner figure of the anima and animus. That's who you're relating to.
Yeah.
It's not possible to have a personal relationship as long as the projection is defining everything. But there are some few people who can break through. And as I said, like you said about the crazy, in people.
Right, yeah.
That slowly the projection wears off by itself because the contrast between the idealized version and the actual person gets so strong that you have to notice the difference.
You'd be blind not to notice.
You'd be blind, and that's what I was saying about then many people are blind.
Well, that love is blind. I mean, that's what they say.
So
love
that's
blind.
It's dated and sexist and everything that the concept is. There is actually something to it.
Okay.
This archetype of the anima and the animus. And again, like we talked about maybe last week, like the data is in the dreams. That this is a very common dream. And so I'm an analyst. You bring me a dream and you say, I dreamt about a man. He was riding on a horse along the beach.
Very Fabio style.
Right. Like, okay, we're having an animus dream now.
Here we go.
Right?
Okay. And so the anima, animus in the dream then, is it always like our pinnacle viewpoint of them? Or do they show up differently?
They show up differently because there are 4 stages of the animus in a woman. And 4 stages.
In a woman specifically? Are they different for men and women?
So back to the sexist patriarchy.
Yep.
Part.
Okay.
No, Jung said there were 4 stages of the anima in a man. And those, but he didn't say in a man. He said there are 4 stages of the anima.
Okay.
And the women analyst said, yeah, you're talking about a man. You're not talking about us. Seriously, this happened. And so the women took upon them the research to say, and now we are ourselves as women going to define the 4 stages of the animus, which is different than a man.
Okay. Can I quick side question? When did women start being able to become analysts?
Oh, from the beginning.
From the beginning? Okay. So I didn't know if it was like back in the early 19...
Yeah, well, not 1920. So you would say originally with Freud, as we talked about before, up till Jung and Freud were together till 1912, especially in Vienna with Freud, all the analysts were men.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jung, and he worked it out to become himself. Immediately, there were women who were training to be analysts, and that was a huge difference. Jung's circle, like at the Institute and things like that, there were a lot of women.
That's nice, though. That's good.
Freud's
good for him.
Circle, there were next to no women.
Yeah. Way more inclusive.
Okay, for instance. Nice. So, yeah, I think
so 4 stages, right?
right in the beginning, when the women analysts, they pushed back on Jung and said, you can talk about a man all you want to. You're a man. We will decide what the animus is like in a woman. And see, I think that's great. I think that's great.
I do too. All right, so stages.
Okay. The first stage is called the animal man.
Animal. Okay.
Which is essentially pure physical maleness attraction.
Okay.
Like Fabio.
Fabio.
Like the dream that I see.
Yeah.
Right. There's this man with long blonde hair, right? Is that Fabio?
He's riding a horse. No shirt on. Yeah.
Okay. That's the physical man. And so the question is, what's attractive about that? And the answer is, just look at him. Look at the body. That's what's attractive.
Nothing else needed. He doesn't need to talk.
Just okay.
And that's going to be very personal and individual for sure.
I mean, every woman has her type, right? Yeah, they may like the Fabio and they may like another kind, but there's a physicality to it, right?
Yeah, I get that.
That's stage 1. I mean, that's sort of base level. And again, instinctual, evolutionary. I mean, you had the course in evolution in college, and the answer is instinctually, what is a woman's job in selecting a mate? What is
babies?
What is the
healthy babies?
The female's job in selecting a male? Well, of course, it's about making babies, but it's about making healthy, strong
babies.
Strong babies. Yeah. So the woman's job is to pick the healthiest, strongest.
So that her babies will be the healthiest and the strongest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, that's the animus.
Okay.
That inner image.
So it's your projection of what will translate into healthy and strong.
If it's instinctual, then it's functioning at this evolutionary level, and you would say that's where Fabio comes in.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's level 1. What is this attraction about? The physical man. Level 2 is called the man of action.
Okay, so now he's doing things.
It's like what's attractive about a man is his power. Right?
This is where we get into intelligence. I like smart guys. I like funny guys. I like sensitive guys.
No, action. He's a general. He is a businessman with millions of dollars.
Right. Okay.
Supposedly. That's a little bit the bad boy. I mean, you'd have to tell me, right? It's like what is attractive is he takes action.
Right.
Right. So I'm trying to think of this Christine Aguilera song, right?
Oh, no. Christina Aguilera, you're pulling it way back.
You're this, you're that, you're badass, you're...
Oh, I'm blanking on that.
I know.
But... okay.
People can write in the comments. I'm sure they know what song I'm thinking. That's it, of this man of... You're badass. That's the man of action. That's the man of action.
Okay.
I mean...
And I think that's where you get into, I like guys that play in a band. Or
that's attractive, right?
Attractive, right. You so he can play an instrument or
because we have a whole deeper place to go with attraction, but this is the basic part, right? So
that makes sense, though.
The man of action is attractive, and then you see, again, all these beautiful women married to these old millionaires.
Right.
And you're like, what? Like what? Why is she attracted to him of all people?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Because he fits the physicality.
No, he does
Like
not fit the
he's doing,
physicality.
no, he's
He's a
sorry, he's
man of action.
doing, it's a
Uh,
man of action. He's doing the right thing.
Henry Kissinger, something like that. That's an old reference. I know.
Mm.
I mean,
I'm thinking more like Jack Black.
maybe, yeah. I mean,
Because I mean, I
he's
don't
not
think most people would
exactly
say
physically
physically, yeah, but
attractive.
people love him. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's doing the right thing. Like
All
he's
right.
helping people and
Okay.
he
There you
does
go.
funny things. So
There
that
you
makes
go.
sense to me. All right.
Okay. That's a man of action.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Third level,
Okay.
the man of words.
Oh, so there we're now we're getting into okay. He talks the talk.
And I love how he talks. You know that
Okay.
smooth, sexy voice. I mean, who are we gonna? Patrick Stewart. I mean,
Oh,
who
I
are we
love
gonna?
Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
Right? Like, I
Or
could
whoever played Riker, that guy.
I could listen to him talk all day long, and it's
Nice.
attractive, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, that voice. It
Right.
gets me every time. Think about that.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Well, and then he's saying the
So
right things too, I'm sure.
he's saying and poetry and um so again, like that level of attraction doesn't have to be physically attractive, doesn't have to be a man of
Mm.
action, but if he's got that voice, like,
But if he has to be saying the
and
right
saying the
things at
right
the same
things,
time.
he
Yeah.
is attractive.
Right. Right.
And
And he's quoting
FYI,
Shakespeare and all
while
that.
we're on it, back to evolution and the instinctual part,
Mm.
what is it that a woman wants to hear?
Well, I
What
think we
are
talked
the
about this
magic
in another
words?
one.
Oh, we
Um,
did? Okay.
it was yeah, it was like you're the one
Yes.
and only, and I'll stick around with you,
Yes.
right?
Those are
I'll
the
raise the babies with you.
those are the magic words, right?
Yeah.
You're the
Mm-hmm.
one and only.
Yeah, we talked about the robin and the robin
Yes, the
choosing
robin.
the
And
mate.
so the man of words, see,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he has that advantage
Yeah, I can see that. Hmm.
as opposed to, let's say, stereotypically poor Fabio,
Poor
you know,
Fabio. Yeah.
uh, is an idiot.
Right. He's doesn't talk a lot, I'm
Right.
sure.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't
Right?
matter.
It doesn't matter what he says.
That's not what's going on here. Right.
Yeah. He
Right.
could have a voice like a rooster and people would still be like,
Yeah.
"You're good."
Yeah. Just keep your mouth shut and
Yeah, we're good.
keep going. Right. But the see the man of words, that's what it's
Mm.
about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
that's
a very
attract
specific.
that's attractive.
Hmm.
But it's a different level. You see how these are
Yeah,
levels.
I can see that.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then the fourth level,
Mm.
the spiritual man.
Oh,
So that
that's tough.
attraction, no, but it happens everywhere. In this,
And so would that be more like just feel a connection to you, or is it because God ordained us to be together, or what? How does
uh,
that manifest?
I'm your disciple. I'm your
I'm your
disciple.
disciple.
You're a spiritual man, and I will follow you to the ends of the earth, and I'm your spiritual bride.
Hmm.
So again, let's think of Gandhi. Uh,
Oh.
all these women around Gandhi,
Hmm.
right? They left their lives. They
Okay.
left their lives and whatever they were doing, and maybe some of them left their husbands to just to be in Gandhi's uh, presence.
Okay.
And I don't know enough about his biography to know how often that became sexualized, let us say.
No.
But we know from various gurus and other kinds of spiritual leaders
Mm.
that, in
Mm.
fact, it is often sexualized, let
Yeah,
us
I'm
say,
sure.
right? But
Mm.
that's And why are the women attracted? Because he's the spiritual man.
He's offering something.
He is, and that is very attractive.
We're getting, more and more niche as we go.
Well, as the levels, and then so like you were saying in dreams, you will see all four of these kinds of animus.
All right.
You'll see, the animal man, and you'll see the man of action, and you'll see the man of words, and you'll see the spiritual man appear in dreams as an animus figure. And then you would say, back last week when we were talking about this process of development.
Yeah, that's what got me started on this.
Theoretically,
you move through them.
You start with just the physical
pure
pan,
physical. Yeah.
but you become more and more aware of these other aspects up to and including the physical man. I'm sorry, the spiritual man.
The spiritual man. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
Right. And that begins to appear in your dreams. And now your animus is in a very different place than when you started.
Right.
And that's the development.
Okay. And so what are the stages? Are they're different for men then? What are
slightly different. Okay. So again, stage 1 is the physical woman.
Physical. Yeah, that makes sense.
Stage 2 is sometimes called the sister anima.
Okay.
So men, as opposed to women, in general are said to have a split anima. 2 animas, not one.
A split anima. What does that mean?
And the one is called endogamous and the other is called exogamous.
Okay.
And those are very fancy words.
Yeah. Let's break that down.
Exogamous, I'll start with that before we get to the sister. It means as in external, exotic.
Oh,
it's like, what is attractive to me about this woman? What is attractive to me is that she is so exotic. She is different, not anything like I have ever seen. And oh my God, that's sexy. And I could just watch her all day long because she's so exotic. She's so different. And that is a thing that men are attracted to in that half of their anima, the exogamous anima. Okay. But what else is attractive? And the sister anima is the endogamous anima, and that is, she is just like me.
Oh, the familiar.
Familiar. What I'm attracted to is a woman. She understands me perfectly because she's just like me. She knows everything about me and she gets me. And that is very attractive, right?
Okay.
Think about that.
Very different than the female one.
Right. Well, that's what I want. I want a woman who knows me so well, like a sister, that I, for once in my whole life, feel understood and accepted. And that's that. Okay.
That's interesting.
Stage 3 is a bit like the woman, and that's the muse. And, muse is a figure going back to ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And then it's all in literature. Various poets and artists have had this woman who inspires them to think of new ideas, make new paintings. They have to have their muse.
And
it really is, the projection is like, when I am with this woman, I am in a different headspace. That I can say things I never say, think of things I never think of, paint things I've never painted.
Yeah.
It's pure inspiration. Well, it's a little bit like the man of words for a woman.
Yeah, I was thinking about the comparison between those two.
The third, he's like a muse in that sense. But for a man, that's a very well-known figure in history is the muse.
Yeah.
And so you see, then that's not physical attraction.
No, and I think that's also like some pedestal kind of thing that we're getting into for sure.
I think all of Anima and Animus is a pedestal, right?
They're just a tiered pedestal.
They're tiered, and you're right. A muse is very much on a pedestal. It may even be the unattainable woman.
Yeah, I would say that would be pretty unattainable.
Yeah, and I love that, and I want that, right?
Right.
Again, back to, marriage as a psychological relationship. It's like, no, you don't actually want that.
No.
In real life,
how are you supposed to relate to them on a daily level if you have them up on a pedestal?
You can't. You can't do it. But I want the muse because, hey, I have great poetry to write. I have great paintings to paint. I want the muse.
I need to be inspired.
Exactly. Okay. And again, like the fourth stage of a man, of a woman, the fourth stage of the anima is her goddess form.
Okay.
The anima as
very much a pedestal here. Unattainable.
Supreme being of all blessing, and you fall at her feet just to worship her.
Right. Goddess energy. Wow.
And again, like we said before, those four appear in dreams. Like a man,
right.
I have a dream of this woman. I've never met this woman, but we're talking about poetry, and we're drinking wine, and I'm thinking of all these, like, okay,
right.
this is the muse anima. Much less there are dreams of the goddess anima too.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be lovely to dream about.
It would. So is this helping get some
This is helping.
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about something that leads into my next question. So we're going through all these stages, and one of the things that I think is lovely is that when it comes around back to it, that we're really talking about a different part of ourselves, right?
When you dream of Fabio
right,
riding on a horse, shirtless on the beach, that's a part of yourself.
It's a part of yourself. Yeah. And when you're having the lovely conversation, drinking wine and talking about things and being inspired, that's really another part of yourself.
It's a part of yourself.
Which is lovely.
It is lovely, but it's hard for people to get hold of. It's like, well, how can that be a part of myself?
Right.
Well, so I'm glad you asked that, because then that gets to the final piece, the deepest piece, is that Jung says in the long run, anima and animus are functions of the psyche. And he calls it, the function is the relating function of the psyche. Which is, in the long run, relating to, as we talked about last week, the self, or the bridge to the collective unconscious. But that it's a function. It isn't really a man if you're a woman.
Right.
It isn't really a woman if you're a man. It's a function of connecting. The connecting function. So, in that sense, the best way to think about anima and animus is to think about the capacity to be fascinated with something, the capacity to have passion about something.
Okay.
So the function would be to have that capacity. So like, take that capacity away and say, what if a person had no capacity to be fascinated with any subject? No fascination.
Boring, for sure.
Yes, it would. That's no, see what I mean? That's no anima, no animus. Or no capacity for passion in their lives. And again, not just physical passion, but passion for life.
I get that.
Right? I mean, let's say, are you passionate about Wicca?
Well, not Wicca, because I'm not Wiccan, but witchcraft, yes. And spiritual communities. But
where does that passion come from?
Oh, That's tough. Yeah. Well, I
And
did grow up with you, so.
well, is it the ego that
Mm-hmm.
decides I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
passionate about witches? No,
Yeah.
obviously not. It's not a
No.
decision.
No, it just comes.
And also that it's you're either passionate or you're not passionate.
Yeah.
You can't fake it,
Mm.
right?
Right. Right.
You can't make a decision. I ought to be passionate about it. No,
That doesn't work out.
it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
We all find that out in public school for
And then
sure.
that is, again, anima and animus, the
The
capacity
capacity.
to be attracted
Huh.
to anything. You're attracted to being a witch.
Right. Right.
Okay. For you, that's animus.
Um,
So see, that's anima and anima as a function,
yeah, that does make sense.
because it's like, what does it take to induce a person to be passionate? You know,
Oh,
what does it take to make someone able to be fascinated
with
with
something. Well,
quantum
and
quantum physics?
right.
You know,
Yeah, if we could
pick
figure that out, life would be a lot easier because you could be
fascinated
fascinated
with
with what
something
you wanted to be
like
fascinated about.
what does it take? And I guess that in the long run, that's a libido question. We're gonna have to talk about libido at some
Mm.
point. But for Freud, that's what this anima would be, is libido.
Oh,
Which
okay.
for Freud,
Libido.
all libido is sexual libido for Freud. There is no other kind of libido.
Hmm.
And that was part of the, Jung said, no,
Mm-mm.
there are many forms of libido,
So
which is
Freud thought that literally,
energy.
like, yeah, being like literally everything was derived from sexuality. Like, so if you're like into painting, it's like, oh, it's because,
That's a sublimation
oh, jeez,
of your
that's
frustrated,
so narrow.
frustrated sexual energy. Of course it will. What else
Uh,
would it be? See what I mean?
yeah, but that's such narrow
Well,
thinking.
that's one reason Jung had to leave,
Yeah, I'm glad
Uh,
Young came along.
um, but the function of anima and animus is this bridge
Mm.
and this ability to be fascinated or passionate about things. It serves a function of bringing the ego, as in you, as ego you, into life
Mm.
instead of holding back from life.
Oh,
When you're passionate, you do things you wouldn't normally do.
yeah, yeah.
When you're fascinated with something, you do things you wouldn't normally do. Like
Mm.
go down an internet rabbit hole.
Right, right,
Like like me
right.
for 6 months, right? To find out about something that I'm just fascinated
Right.
with.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a drawing into life. And then back to
Right.
our original conversation, let's say getting
Mm.
married, being in a relationship.
Right.
Well, there are people who hold back from that,
Well,
or
there's, yeah.
they've had experiences or trauma in the
Mm.
past,
Mm-hmm.
and they may feel something. See, there's anima.
Yeah,
And no,
yeah.
no, 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 no. I could get hurt. I'm not
Mm.
going to. That's the holding back.
The holding back part. Yeah.
And when you do that, you're holding back from life.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And it
For
takes
sure.
this power of anima or animus to be so overwhelming that I don't.
Right.
I can't think about getting hurt. I got to do this. I got to do it. I got to.
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
anima and animus. I got to do it. And
Mm.
yes, it's pulling you into life. And yes, you're going to get hurt,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And
Right.
and if you're fascinated with something, you're going to be fascinated and realize it's a dead end.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Or
But
you're
it's still better
passionate,
than not having anything at
you're
all.
passionate about something, and you know what? That
Mm.
whole thing just never worked out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
it can
so
fizzle
you're
out.
like, why did I do that?
It was a learning experience,
See,
right?
well, that's it. It is the pain and suffering part that is
Mm.
the growth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you said, I'm only going to do things that logically make sense for me, to do.
Right. Right.
Let's say like Mr. Spock or something, Spock
Oh,
like,
like totally logical. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
right? You wouldn't have growth.
Mm.
You need to be
Hmm.
life is messy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where, I mean, they do
Life.
show sometimes that Spock is not totally logical all
So
the
there
time.
you
So,
go, that you give the writers credit for the character development of Spock,
mm-hmm.
in that, in fact, he does become a wisdom figure.
Right.
And you would say for women, is he more the archetype of the spiritual man at the end? At the end of
Oh,
his character arc, right? That he is this
yeah.
spiritual being.
Mm.
See,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, the writers did get this
Yeah.
development and the
The,
arc,
the arc in there, yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But the original Spock isn't totally logical. It's like, no, there it again, love's executioner.
Right. Right.
There's nothing logical about falling in love, and you should never do it.
Right.
It only leads to trouble.
Right.
And from Spock's point of view,
Of course.
it's
He's like, yeah.
entirely
Mm-hmm.
correct.
Mm-hmm. He's just watching Kirk mess things up time after time.
But, well, no, McCoy, you green-blooded monster, have you
Right.
no heart? Like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're supposed to get
Mm.
all messed up, and
Right. That's part of the journey. Exactly.
it is pain and suffering, and that's then
Mm.
the development and the learning. Well, okay,
Yeah.
that was bad.
Right. Not going to do that again.
And what did we learn from this? Like
Exactly.
there's the development. So see,
Aw,
all right, all of that is Anima and Animus.
nice. Yeah. I like that. Well, I think I have one more question along that line about what, so after all this, what it makes a strong anima animus? Is there a way that we can work with that on an individual level to make sure that we're strengthening that and we're not having sort of this weak projection that we're dealing with?
You're right about the strong and weak, because now we're back. It
Mhm.
takes a strong ego to
Right.
withdraw a projection,
Right. Yeah.
as opposed to just falling for it every time.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
when are we going to learn something here? Yes, he's your type. I get
Right.
it. Does that mean you have to get married? Right? I mean, no,
Mm-hmm.
it really doesn't. Okay, so that's the ego decision part of, and withdrawing projections. But since we've said Anima and Animus is an archetype, there is no resisting it. It's a natural
Mm.
part of life. There's no way around it.
Okay.
But awareness
Yes. Yeah.
can make a big difference. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm feeling this attraction.
Right.
I would like to be with Fabio. And then you're like, see, then you can say, oh,
Hmm.
okay,
I've done
yeah.
this before.
Like, I get it. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true, and it's
Hmm.
real attraction, and it's
Right.
true, and I get it, and it's at that level. Okay.
Okay.
And yes, that's a part of me.
Hmm.
That's a part of me. I feel that, and every woman feels that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a growth of
Mm.
awareness. Maybe it's,
Yeah.
and the man of action, it's like, ooh,
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
this guy. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. I get it. I get it. He's he is, a powerful businessman, but that doesn't mean that it would be a good relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I get it. I
So
get
there's
it.
a
I get it.
trial and error type of
Well,
situation.
learning,
Yeah.
development,
Learning about it.
development.
Mm.
And let's say then the man of words.
Yeah.
See, as the level,
That
it
one's
gets
so
harder.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, the reason I'm feeling this way is just because of how he talks.
Right. And he's
If I
saying all the
look,
right
and he's
things
saying all the
and
right and if I look at
mm.
the holes in the wall, I realize it's different than this.
Yeah. The way he talks is not lining up.
Right. And
Mm.
then the spiritual man, like, you say the same
Right.
thing. It's like, oh, this is all beauty and spirit
Mm.
and godness, and oh, it's wonderful. And do I really want to be having this sexual relationship with him and the other 30 goddesses who are his harem?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, what is going on here? Right?
Mm. Yeah, that one's a tough one.
So that's awareness. It's like, okay, yes,
Yeah.
I have this within me. Of course
Right.
I do. I have this
Mm-hmm.
within me. And that I relate to that and I desire that and I seek that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then all this other stuff is manipulation, let us say.
Manipulation. Yeah. Or falling away of the archetype
R-
because we believe something to be true that wasn't
Well,
true in
it's
the
like
first place.
I'm having this experience with my animus,
Mm.
but he actually is doing this other thing
Right.
that is not about me at all, has nothing to do with me.
Mm.
And is that something I actually really want to do or continue to do? And see,
Yeah.
so you can grow and have
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I can imagine as we get older that we discern more and more and more between
Experience.
these. Yeah.
Experience.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. That
Well,
makes sense.
one would hope.
Yes, exactly. One would hope. There's actually a movie called His Dark Materials. It's a book. It's a book series first. Actually, read the book first. It's way
How
better.
about that?
But I think most people probably remember the movie Golden Compass. It's,
Yes.
it's not a great one. It's not a good movie, but they recently on HBO they did the book justice. So there are three books. It's 3 seasons. It's called His Dark Materials, and in the main character Lyra's world, I'm now speaking to I know what this is that their anima, the animus, takes a physical form of an animal, and
Yes.
the characters because it's about interdimensional stuff, and so the characters from our world go into their world, and then at the end of the book they're able to they bring to life their anima animus comes outside of them, and then they get to like the main boy character, his is a cat, and there's a female character that's hers turns into a bird, and I just think it's something that you would be really interested in because it has a lot of really cool aspects like that. So also listeners, check that out.
That's cool. Yeah.
But anyway, wrapping up, is there anything else that you think we need to know for our baseline going forward about anima
I
animus?
mean, I think we covered most of it, and I would say
Mm-hmm.
now that you know this, that you can begin to see it in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
I
a
think
little
so
bit
too.
like we were talking about in the last episode or 2 episodes ago is that this again developmental agenda in a dream or in whoever the dream originator is like, okay, now is the time to deal with animus.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay,
It's coming up. Yeah.
you're dreaming of, pick one of the levels, you're dreaming of the man of words kind of animus,
Mm.
and that means it's time for you to watch your projections
Right.
and remember he's inside of you,
Mm.
as
I love
opposed
that part.
to falling for this guy
Mm-hmm.
who is
Right.
not an animus. He's the guy,
Right.
right?
Right.
It
That's the
seems
tricky
like
part.
that would be helpful.
I think it would be helpful for a lot of us if they should talk about this in high school. Like,
I happen to know you had a class in high school that dealt with the archetypes.
I did, but
That
I had a very special English teacher,
you did, because
Maloney Brown. Shout out if you're still out there
That's
somewhere.
amazing. Amazing to have had
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, we talked about things that I don't think most other people ever talk about. So, yeah, very lucky. But anyway, well, thanks, Dad. I think this is a really good baseline for us. And I know that we've said these words anima and animus several times.
Yes.
And now we can make sure that everybody knows what we're talking about.
And trying to make it practical, right?
Practical, yeah, because I think that, like I said, we should learn this in high school. Everybody should. It would help a lot with us with relationships, in our trying to, especially that teenage time. Oof,
oh, yeah.
Goodness. Horrible. But thanks again, Dad. And I appreciate you coming out.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Bye, Dad.
Bye.
Well, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that conversation on the Anima and Animus. If you want to learn more about us, you can go to our website, ajungianinawitch.com. If you want to hear more from me, Molly, you can head over to my website, aqueenofcupsapothecary.com. If you want more from Dad, head over to his YouTube channel, History of Ideas. Well, thanks again for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you back here next Monday.